Ladies, gentlemen, and everyone in between, welcome to your newest episode of This is a Revolution, your weekly RevPro podcast. Here with myself, George, and my good friend, Mr. Dave the Mark. Dave, how are we doing?
All right, thanks, mate. How are you?
Yeah, good, mate. Good. It's getting used to these dark nights when there's nothing festive to look forward to, and you could look at it in terms of, oh my god, this is depressing, or you could look at it as, hey, it's dark, but I've got lots of wrestling shows coming up next month, so that is my January Christmas I'm treating myself to, mate.
Hey, you've got a mad couple of weeks, haven't you?
I have, yeah, 5 wrestling shows in 3 weeks. I think it's 5. Yes, I'm going to GCW one Saturday. The following Sunday is RevPro at the 229. The following Friday is Eve. 2 days after that is RevPro at Southampton. And then that weekend, All-Star Wrestling South, literally a 5-minute walk, less than a 5-minute walk from my house, is that Saturday. So, like, in the space of that time, and you know what the crazy thing is, I'm potentially considering Progress. I know Progress for Meiko Satomura's last match. I'm hoping RevPro managed to steal it for one as well, and can get to see her another time. But if I do that, be 6 shows in 7-8 weeks. Be fucking crazy, mate. Absolutely crazy. But yeah, mate, looking forward to it. Starting off the year with a bang.
Hot, mate.
Absolutely. I was like, this year I'm not going to do as many wrestling shows. I'm going to incorporate a few more gigs and stuff in there. Well, I'll tell you what I've done, Dave. I've incorporated more gigs in there, but I'm still incorporating the wrestling shows in there as well. I don't know what I'm doing, but hey, starting off with a bang, going to enjoy some live wrestling. And I think I've worked out that apart from maybe one show, I'm going to be at all of the shows with friend of the podcast, Mr. Will Warrener. Absolute delighted human. What's the word I'm looking for? Enthusiasm at the wrestling.
Mate, he's one enthusiastic lad, I'll give you that.
He absolutely is.
I am very much in dry January of no RevPro shows. I'm not liking it. But I have started my New Year's resolution of trying to get into Stardom. Thank you to those people that through social media helped guide me to where I should begin. I've committed mentally that I'm going to go back to the Cinderella tournament from last year, and then the 5-star Grand Prix, and then the events around the end of the year to set me up for this year, which I'm quite excited about. I've watched all the first round matches of the tournament, and I will pick up tomorrow night with the second round matches and go from there. That Alex Windsor Jamie Hayter match at Eve, that's the most tempted I've ever been to go to just a random independent company that isn't RevPro just to go and watch a match. Absolutely delighted for Eve that they've pulled that off. Delighted for Alex Windsor because she's made it really clear, isn't she, that it's like a dream match for her. And wicked for Jamie Hayter back in the UK, someone that I never got to see wrestle for RevPro, but got to see it all in. So yeah, it's quality, mate. It's quality to see so many British companies running shows. My that Jamie Hayter Alex Windsor one is, I think if I've got the dates right, it's Friday the 7th of February.
You're right, mate. Yeah.
So that's like my birthday weekend. So I'm going to Southampton on the Sunday, which is like my selfish day out. So the Friday night and the Saturday, I'm going to spend it doing family stuff with kids and with Emily. But I was tempted at first. I was like, I wonder if there's any wrestling shows on the Friday night. And my mother-in-law could have the kids and me and Emily can go. I can drag her along because it's my birthday. She has to just get involved. So I had a little look, and there's like so many shows running that night. Obviously, like Eve are running that night, but Sacrifice Pro Wrestling, which is in Bedford, which is obviously like I work in Bedford, so I drive past the venue on my way home from work, that sort of thing. Like that's running that night. There's shows kind of up and down the country. Like it's it's really good to see.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of shows going on. Every one of them has something different to offer as well. Like, so this All Star Wrestling one, I was like, last month they had JJ Gale. I was like, that's quite a big get for them. Like, it's Joel Redman's school, but to say that the level, the stature of how well known these guys are, JJ is like by far the largest they've had there. It was like, hey, that's really cool. I mean, they get a lot of like big names at the school who do seminars. Like they've had EC3, Scotty Too Hotty, James Storm, but they never come to the actual shows. But JJ was like, that's a big get for them. And then Haskins got announced, and that was me done. Like I was sold a ticket,
Yeah, I love that.
literally based on Haskins, which I think we've said this privately. Like I love Haskins, haven't seen him enough over the years because being more
Yeah,
Rev Pro shows that I'd go
he's
to.
one of
Yeah,
my bucket list wrestlers,
yeah, yeah,
and he's very high on that list for people I want to see as well.
yeah, absolutely. And he's against a guy called Brandon Lee, who he's been making a bit of a name for himself. The way I could describe how he looks somewhere between, who was I to say? It was like a Baron Corbin and
mhm.
someone else in WWE, but kind of got the look. Like he's got a real menacing kind of look. But from what I saw of him the first time, really good. He's been doing shows out in OVW. He's about to go on an excursion in Japan. So the lad's doing well for himself, and I think it'll be a really great match. But yeah, the Eve stuff, that like I woke up to 3 messages. So I think I might have said this on the pod before, but I find it really hard to get to sleep. So I always fall asleep on the couch in front of the TV. Wake up at like 1:30, and 3 people had messaged me and said, "Have you seen this?" They were, "This will be something for you." And I kind of looked at it, and you know when you think you've seen something, you go, I found it hard to sleep that night because in my head I was constantly thinking about this match. And I woke up going, "Did I dream that?" And so, no, I didn't dream it. So I was like, straight away, I was going, how do I make this work? Do I try and book the day off work? If I don't get the day off work, do I just go up early in the morning, work out the London office, go over? It's all bit of a mission, but it'll be worth it. And so I just booked my ticket, and then I checked either later that day or the following day, and on the app they'd gone from saying they had no more first rows left to first row opening, and I was like, because with the app that you use, Dice, I think it is, normally they don't like refunding tickets. So when I've tried refunding before, they're like, no. And I'm like, I'm just going to be stuck with this. And then they let me refund so I could buy a front row, which was great because that match, I mean, you said Alex Windsor said it's a dream match. For me, that's a dream match. Everything you say about Serena Deeb for being like a TV wrestler who's your favorite because they embody everything about them. That's what Jamie Hayter is for me. And much like you, I've never got to see Jamie Hayter anywhere else before. The only times I've met Jamie Hayter at a convention when she was still AEW Women's World Champion. So I have a picture of me with Jamie Hayter where she has the belt. I was like, I can't wait to see you All In. This was last year, or the year before.
Yeah.
And then obviously she made her return this year, but I don't count that as seeing a Jamie Hayter match. I saw a Jamie Hayter moment, but not a match. I'm so excited for this because this is a literal dream match for me as well. Like 2 of the best women in the game, and they're just gonna tear it down. And look, if I went to that show and that's the only match I see, I'd be more than happy with that. And I was having a look at the card because I know there's a multiverse rumble, which not normally my sort of thing,
like,
but
it's just complete chaos, isn't it? If I understand.
But from what I've seen, it looks very akin to what Riot Cab do as well. So maybe it will be one of those ones that I wouldn't go out of my way to go for, but being there on the night, I'm sure it's going to be great fun. And I've also
like a
seen
big old banter fest.
Yeah, exactly. And then I've seen that Nina Samuels is having a match with Sky Smithson, which I'm all there for. Because Sky Smithson, I don't know why she's not been booked for RevPro. I have no idea.
She's so good.
She's like super underrated.
There was a time in 2022. Was it? It might have been 23. I'm getting my years muddled up now. But there was a time when like her and Danny Lunas felt like they were just carrying what was like a pretty small women's division on their backs.
Yeah.
Like they were just head and shoulders above everything else that was taking place in women's wrestling in RevPro,
Yeah.
because it was they were pretty much involved in everything.
Yeah.
It was either one of them or them when they were competing against each other.
Yeah. Yeah. It was great. I mean, for me, like a staple of my early RevPro shows is Sky Smithson. Like, and a lot of local shows around the area is Sky Smithson. Like, I think she's great. I think the first time I saw Chantel Jordan was in a match against Sky Smithson, and it was great. It was so good. And you look at what Chantel was like, where she is now, and that's because she works people. Like, I mean, she puts in the work as well, but she gets the reps in. But she wrestles people like Sky, who are going to help bring people up around it. So I hope we get Sky Smithson back in RevPro this year, because I would love that. It'd just be another wonderful addition or wonderful return to an already great women's roster. But yeah, someone mentioned to me, they were like, because I find, and I feel like I'm you a year ago with me probably, when a year ago outside Crystal Palace, I was like, it's going to be Orange Cassidy. And you're like, God, this dude's getting carried away. This dude's getting carried away with himself. I'm just going to temper expectations.
I thought everybody was getting carried away, mate, because everyone was saying Orange Cassidy or Swerve Strickland for the unannounced person in the scramble match, and like this was one occasion where I knew that Shigehiro Irie was the surprise. I'd been told that. As I can't remember why I'd been told it, but I'd been told it from RevPro, so that I could do something for the Instagram channel, something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But then they'd kind of played me by telling me that, but not telling me the Orange Cassidy. So when everyone's outside talking about Orange Cassidy, I'm standing there in the queue kind of thinking, I know that it's not Orange Cassidy. I know it's Shigehiro Irie. I can't say anything. But I'm also like, how do I try and be like, maybe we should, maybe I just threw some names out to try and lower everybody's expectations. And then the story of bumping into Orange Cassidy in his full gear at Crystal Palace, I'll remember that forever.
I love that, mate.
Oh shit. I'm probably not meant to be in the locker room. This isn't where I'm meant to be.
Yeah, I love that. And funnily enough, like I didn't realize that's what I saw, but there was an area in Crystal Palace where you could see where some of the wrestlers were, right? And you could see them talk about things. And I saw the bit where RKJ was clearly telling Anthony Ogogo how to do the punch for that night in the Tag League final. And I was like, that's what I saw. But so when I was saying about the lowering expectations, I feel that's where I was this year. Where people were like, maybe we'll get Jamie Hayter over. I'm like, come on, guys, like that's not going to happen. And then this Eve show gets announced, and now the one that I'm seeing happening is people going, well, she's here on the Friday. She's from Southampton. Southampton's on the Sunday. I'm like, we're not getting Jamie Hayter on Southampton's show on a Sunday, are we? And I'm at the stage of RevPro where I'm like, I don't think so. But you know what? I won't put it past them at this stage.
I will say one thing. They got season tickets to sell,
haven't they?
And you put a big match on for every show that's got a season ticket for the first show to encourage people to buy their season ticket for the whole year. Now, I'd say that David Francisco versus Michael Oku for the undisputed British Heavyweight Championship, that's what they're doing there by saying, look, you're going to see the championship defended. Here's a big match. Here's your local boy wrestling the champion. But, mate, it's RevPro in 2024 blew my mind with what is reasonable to expect.
Yeah.
Like, if you'd said at the start of 2024 that we were going to get MJF at York Hall, I would have said that you're getting carried away.
Yeah.
If you'd told me that we were going to have Mercedes Mone as undisputed British Women's Champion, like, mate, I clipped the video for her of her winning the championship for the Instagram channel and shared it and collaborated with her on it so that it was shared to her followers as well. and it got viewed by 500,000 people within 3 days.
God.
That's like, that literally blows my mind.
Mercedes,
Obviously,
please collaborate with
I
us.
see what all the Instagram posts. I see how many people view it, so you kind of get a bit of a vibe if it's something. If it's Osprey and Osprey collaborates with it, that gets you a certain number. When it was Mina, if she collaborated with it, that got you a certain number. But 500,000 people. That's
absurd.
insane.
Yeah, and that just shows the reach, doesn't it? That's why when I hear people talk about, oh yeah, but she's not going to come to York, to the 229, or she's not going to come to Southampton. Like, this is what we should. It's like sometimes you look at ones where, like, I look at a GYV and go, was that really worth, like, the tag title was being gone so much? I don't think it was. For RevPro as a business, will this be worth it? You're fucking right, it'll be worth it. Because
of course it will be. Of course
this,
it will be. And I think with the GYV one, like, obviously that situation was evolving.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think from my conversations with the lads, I don't think that they knew that AEW was on the cards when they became RevPro champions.
I would say
think
so.
that there would have been some discussions, but I don't think it was like signed, sealed, and delivered. That came later. So that's kind of
a good point. Yeah.
Whereas RevPro know what they're getting into bed with Mercedes. They know that, like, they know everything in advance, in the sense that they know she's an AEW wrestler. She's working with New Japan. She's here, there, and everywhere. They're not going to be able to have her when they want her. They're going to have to work around her schedule.
Yeah.
But they also know that she is going to give them a spotlight like no other spotlight they've ever had.
I forget the name of it, but there's a US women's US talk show that she was just on.
Yeah.
And she's there. Over her shoulder is the RevPro and Queen of Southside titles, and you're like, hang on, this is daytime talk show in America, which that's big deal, right? A massive deal, and the RevPro belt is there, and you're like, this is what she can give you outside of that. I mean, look.
Andy Gordon said to Fightful, didn't he, that they've had a massive surge in RevPro on demand subscribers.
I'm not
she hasn't
surprised.
even wrestled a match for RevPro yet, but people want to familiarise themselves with the company before she does. Like, of course, it's a business at the end of the day, and it's a business that has to grow. Because if you don't grow, you can't stand still, can you? When you stand still and everything else is profiting, you're going to fall behind. And they're still coming back from the pandemic. They're still. Andy's talked before quite openly, hasn't he, about the fact that there's debts that were paid from the pandemic where, you know, they couldn't run shows and they couldn't make money for such a long period, and people were furloughed and stuff. So it's one of those ones that you'll always get purists who are thinking about the small company that they love.
Yeah.
And I'm not knocking them for it, because
no, absolutely,
you know, everybody has their own relationship with it, and a lot of the time, you know, sometimes I feel like I'm that protective. I was one of those people that when I was watching Wrestle Dynasty was getting really hyped up by Chris Charlton beating the defend New Japan pro wrestling drum, and I loved his little shots at AEW and stuff like that. I completely get it, and it's. Everybody wants to support the underdog, don't they? Everybody wants to support the little engine that could. But sometimes, like, things are just sometimes things are just really good for business, and two, sometimes you get an opportunity that you can't pass up. How many people, like, how many RevPro, like diehard RevPro fans, thought they would ever get to see like a Mercedes Mone?
Yeah, none.
In
like
prime,
in
RevPro.
Yeah, I liken this. Sorry, carry on, mate. I cut you off. I was going to say,
No. I'd kind of come to a stop.
I likened this with someone who I was having a chat with, and I said, for me, this feels like the women's wrestling version of getting, from a popularity standpoint, of getting Roman Reigns in York Hall. That's what it feels like a genuine superstar in their field. Like, and I'm not using that in the sense that WWE calls their wrestlers superstars. I mean, a superstar, someone that transcends what they're doing, someone that can go on these talk shows, who is in Disney Plus shows, who can go and wrestle at the Tokyo Dome, and then they're going wrestling on US TV, like someone who is a legit star in their field. And maybe, I mean, it's debatable, but you could argue one of the, if not the top women's wrestler from North America ever, right? That is a debate people are having.
And also like one of the legit most famous female wrestlers in the world.
Yeah.
Like, if like a perfect example, just from my point of view, is I talk about wrestling all the time with kids at school, right? Because there's always new kids that discover that I'm involved in this. That one of my TikTok videos will appear on their For You page or something like that. Or quite simply, I don't know if I've said this on the podcast before, but if you're new to my class and I ask you to get the books out and you go to the back cupboard and you open the books, when you open the teacher's cupboard doors, the cupboard doors are lined with photos from the wrestling. So, you know, you open it up and there's me and Trent Seven, and there's me and Will Ospreay, and there's me and GYV and stuff like that. They're all my photos are there. And it's just a little bit of, I like to bring a bit of the personal into teaching, because I'm a firm believer that it's all about relationships and building positive relationships between teachers and students. And I'm a very open book, as anyone who's met me can attest to. So I'm always getting kids all the time, and members of staff as well. Funnily enough, there's a show at Bedford Corn Exchange. I don't know which company it is. I'm assuming it's LDN Wrestling, because they run Bedford shows. They run that everywhere, it seems. But their poster is everywhere in Bedford. But all it is the word wrestling, 3 fellas, and a phone number.
Yeah.
And I think it's a landline house phone number. There's not even like a website or anything. And all these people have come to me and been like, is that your wrestling company? Is that the wrestling company that you go and watch? Is that the one that you do your podcast about? And I was like, no, that company's probably a few notches smaller than the one that I go and watch. But if I turn around and say, oh no, there's different levels to it, and you know, put it this way: the current women's champion in the company that I go and watch is Mercedes Mone or is Sasha Banks. People know who that is. Do you know what I mean? Like that's someone that any kid who's ever heard of wrestling or ever watched wrestling knows who Sasha Banks is.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You said the word transcend earlier. Like, that's completely it, isn't it? She transcends just wrestling. She's so much bigger than just her role as a wrestler. She is like an American celebrity as well.
Yeah.
Proper fascinating, mate. I'm so interested to see where it all goes.
Yeah, same, mate. Same. I don't care where it is. I'm just there for it. You know what? The one thing I'm nervous about, as someone who will be there sitting and try and get tickets for most shows, like you do. I mean, you beat me in way more ways than getting tickets. I'm genuinely worried about what happens when tickets are announced for a show that she's on. I really do hope that RevPro do something for those of us who have bought tickets before and then open it up to the wider. But one of the things that I think you touched on there that I really liked, and I've noticed it, right? So I'll often say to you, Dave, on text about the Mercedes effect, right? Because I've made no bones about it that our videos, a couple of our videos, I really played up to the algorithm, because I was like, I'm just going to try something. And look, for those of you who are eagle-eyed, I've had people question and go, did you really get up at whatever time in the morning it was to record that video of Mercedes after she won?
Of course we did.
Yeah. I mean, just remember, guys, I live in the Arctic Circle, which is why the sunlight was coming in through my window at 4 o'clock in the morning. But we recorded 2 versions of it, right? Because we knew that one of the two results was going to happen. But we were just covering one just to cover our asses a bit and just go, we think this is what's going
Yeah,
to
I mean,
happen.
I think we were fairly confident we'd be sharing the
Yeah,
Mercedes video, and our little
exactly.
Mina video was kind of a just in case it doesn't go down how we think it's going to.
Exactly that. And then I said to you, look, we said before, well, in between Christmas, we were like, first time ever we got 1 to 100 views like in a day, right? So I said to Dave, I reckon this one, if we release it right, could get 200, maybe if we're lucky, 300 views, right? That's where I saw this going, and that was off the back of the Mercedes effect. Now, the one that we did with her with the RevPro title for our predictions video, that's done. I think that's almost at 300. I think, or that might be around 200, 300. That's doing numbers. But this one is still, as I last checked, about somewhere between 2.2 to 2.3 thousand views. So that's just us doing this, and we're seeing that effect on such a macro level. Seeing what this is going to do for RevPro, it's going to be huge. Like the money that is going to be made from it, but the fans worldwide. I mean, Dave had a bit of his speech on one of the pods clipped up by someone who was an American Mercedes Mone fan. Like that was what that whole Twitter page was dedicated to. I've had people comment and talk about that. Oh, this sounds good. This set of wrestlers you're saying, this sounds good. I know of her, but I don't know of her. So I've been directing people to RevPro on demand and giving them a, hey, we're going to release this video. Go and watch this. Go and watch. Prime yourself on these, because she is someone that is getting people watching the product. And I firmly believe that unless you're someone that goes, I just like women's wrestling, because you do get those people. As much as I'm like, wrestling is wrestling, right? Some people want the women's wrestling and they'll come, but you'll get the ones who'll go, I'll see that. And then they'll maybe go, I've heard of this Leon Slater guy. Who's this Desire guy? And then they'll watch one of their matches. And then they'll go, oh, who's Luke Jacobs? Yeah. Oh, well, I know Ishii. They'll get down that rabbit hole. And that's how you bring new fans into the product. So I'm very, very excited for what it brings.
Surely you'll also get wrestlers who see, oh, she wrestles when she's done independent dates. She's wrestled for RevPro.
Mm-hmm.
They must be a very professional outfit. They must be somewhere that if I'm looking at going to do a UK date, I'm going to go to RevPro. If I'm looking at a European company, I'm going to go to RevPro. Yeah. So it also must surely help attract bigger name independent wrestlers.
Yeah.
Or, you know, we've talked before about how the novelty of getting to see a New Japan wrestler in RevPro is not the same it once was.
No.
We've been spoiled. We've been spoiled by how many New Japan wrestlers have come over that now, when it's like Tanahashi's going to be at Global Wars, Ishii's going to be at the anniversary show, Shingo's going to be here. It's mad that there are so many fans of RevPro who can say they've seen these wrestlers 5, 6, 7, 8 times.
Yeah.
The new well to tap into surely is AEW and Stardom.
Yeah.
Stardom for the women, AEW for both men's, women's, and tag. And for those wrestlers, you know, for Orange Cassidy to come over to RevPro, you'd imagine that's one where it's a case of Tony Khan said, go and do this. Like, would you mind going to do this? This would be good for us. Or I'd imagine, you know, I can't imagine that was RevPro approaching Orange Cassidy. Yeah. I can imagine that was RevPro approaching Tony Khan suggesting it to Orange Cassidy saying, yeah, I'll come and do it, Tony Khan coming back to RevPro. But now, surely you're going to get more wrestlers in those companies looking at this being like, well, they get the big names.
Yeah.
It's a destination for me to go and, you know, it's something for me to tick off my bucket list.
Yeah.
All these other people have done it. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's so many benefits. I think it'll be fascinating to see. I don't think we'll really understand. And you know, who knows? Who knows how long this is going to last? Who knows how many appearances we're going to get? Like, you literally, no, everyone can speculate, and people can be negative about it because they have their assumptions, and people can be positive about it because they have their assumptions. Realistically, no one's going to know until it happens. So let it play out, and talk about it afterwards.
Absolutely.
But the whole point of it is things like this mean that the idea of what is a reasonable hope is so kind of, it's been burst. So why couldn't we see Jamie Hayter and RevPro at some point this year if she's coming over for other things as well? Like, why is it somebody? We're doing our question and answers later, and somebody asked a question about there's a question in there about people coming into RevPro who we might want to see, and suddenly you're like, well, actually, yeah, I don't see John Cena ever wrestling for RevPro. I don't see Roman Reigns ever wrestling for RevPro. But actually, the list of people that you can't imagine doing it is now really, really small.
Yes, absolutely.
Because actually, you're like, do you know what? Could I imagine Hangman Page wrestling in RevPro? Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
John Moxley, yeah, why not? Like, it's not. These are completely plausible things, and actually, you're like, it's almost like, do you know what? Actually, I'm surprised John Moxley hasn't wrestled for RevPro.
Yeah, because he's done it like with OTT, right?
Than thinking that he might.
Yeah, because when he did that OTT day, I was like, that really opens up possibilities. And respectfully, like on UK soil, RevPro is a much bigger proposition, but that is just crazy. I mean, you even look at OTT over in Ireland. I mean, I know that a lot of it's Irish wrestlers do, but they've had Finn Balor there, they've had JD McDonough there, Lyra Valkyrie, like all there, and it's just like, and it feels like wrestling in 2025 is bigger companies are getting more global and working with their partners, right? We've seen Shinsuke Nakamura out in Noah and stuff like that. Like, it just feels like they're getting this wider world is out there, and I think the legitimacy is one thing that I really agree with you on, because it makes RevPro feel more legit. Hey, we've had MJF. Hey, we've had Mercedes Mone. Hey, we've had Dante Martin, Orange Cassidy, all these people, Leo Rush. Like, it's crazy. Tanahashi, mad. And on top of that as well, I've always kind of said what I love about RevPro, and where sometimes my disconnect now comes with TV wrestling. Because I think I'm in the same boat where we've had this conversation where I said I love TV wrestling. Now I find it a bit harder, is because I think TV wrestling, I have a lot of expectation of what I need from it to enjoy it. Whereas RevPro, the stories generally are good. But for an indie, all I'm looking for is I'm looking for some well-told stories. I'm looking for some great matches, and I'm just looking for the moments that could happen. And I feel like that in RevPro now, that the expectation of what is reasonable to expect is there. That it doesn't feel like I'm going, oh yeah, I'd love this person. Whereas a year ago, Orange Cassidy felt like this would be beyond my wildest dreams. And now Orange Cassidy, respectfully, has slipped down so many rungs of where that is now because of the relationships that they've got with their partners and how they've been able to build that up. And that's just so exciting for me, because the thing that I love most about it all, and I don't say this often as a wrestling fan because this shouldn't be my concern, but I love that this will really help the business side of it, the bottom dollar on it, and hopefully help RevPro be able to continue building on what they've done this last year, keep that going gradually, sustainable, have a sustainable model in place so that we can just keep seeing this company for years to come.
It's got to be the dream, mate, isn't it?
It is, mate. Right. So, my friend, I am going to run through our power rankings for RevPro. So I'm just going to introduce those. I've been mentioned on social media I wanted to do something a little bit different. Anyone that hears me or Dave chat for more than 10 minutes will know that we are stats nerds. We love some stats. And one of the things I've not seen around everywhere, people said they loved with AEW, was the ranking system. And I was like, I really like that too. I love the ranking system. It felt legit. So what I was thinking was looking at the old power ranking system that you get kind of a lot in American sports, and really like going for this scenario, this will happen, or this will happen, this will happen. So I've come up with a little power ranking system of my own, which I'm going to introduce this year for RevPro. I'm going to be tracking it. Now, this is probably going to be primarily on social media, but I'm sure at times we'll discuss it on the pod here as well. And we'll see what this looks like and kind of try and pitch what we think might happen. But what I've done, Dave, is I put my system in place. I wanted to check how flawed or how good it might be, and it's come out pretty decent, if I do say so myself. And I'll kind of run through some of the stuff in a moment. But I have charted this all the way through from the beginning of 2024 to live in London 85, and I've keyed in all of the data for all of these shows for all of the wrestlers. I was going to finish off.
That's 85 would have been May, right?
Yes, yeah, because that's great because the event before that is live in Sheffield, April. So yes, May time. So that's kind of like where I've looked at there, and like I said, I was going to do the whole lot, and it's very time intensive to backfill a complete year's worth of stats. So guys, if you would like to see the entire year, I will happily do it. If this video gets 300 views, 20 reshares, and 50 likes. I'm setting those targets high, but if we can get that, I will complete the whole year and we'll do an episode dedicated to it. But until then, we'll just kind of go over what we've got, and I'm just going to give you a little look behind the curtain. You will now see Dave and I in the corners, and we've got a lovely spreadsheet here. Now, you're probably looking at this going, cool. Now, there'll be some of you who will be marking out for this because it'll be like, oh my God, spreadsheets. But you will see that there's green
spreadsheets and colours.
Yeah. Oh, man, I love me some conditional formatting. And so the red is where they took a loss. The black is where they didn't appear on a show. The green is where they won. The yellow is where they drew. So there's all of this kind of stuff. And you will see there that I've done this for every singles wrestler that appeared in that period in RevPro. I've also, while it's much smaller, done the women's and the tag as well. So a lot of work has gone into this, and I plan on doing this all the way through the year because I really want to see how things work out. But it's thrown up some interesting things for me and a different way to consider it. I'm not saying like this is a way to consider it, but I just found an interesting thought. If I said to you, Dave, at the end of this period, so January to May, who would you say would feature in your top 3 wrestlers, male wrestlers, as probably like the ones who have performed the best in this system? So remember, this system is based on, is to kind of give an insight, it's based on wins, losses, all of that sort of stuff. But there's like bonuses included. So if someone goes on a bit of a winning streak, they then get percentages. So like if they win more than 3 matches, they get an extra 10%, and it goes up. Mm-hmm. So that's how these point systems work. If they draw, that doesn't count as a loss. It carries on. They carry on get the percentages. But who would you put in your top 3 of best performing male wrestlers?
Okay, so if we're talking about January's basically a write-off because there was just 1 229 show.
Yeah.
You've then got February, which was high stakes, couple of regional shows. March, which was Revolution Rumble, some regional shows. Mm-hmm. April was the first Coventry show, some regional events, and then May was Fantastica Mania. Yeah,
and there's some things while you're considering that. Things. Yeah, I was just going to say for you to be able to.
Name at this time, like Luke Jacobs has got to be right at the top, hasn't he?
Luke Jacobs was at the top. Yeah, so
yeah, because he's got all the momentum going into the Rumble, wins the Rumble. I think he's got like the highest win percentage of any wrestler in like him and Oku in 2024.
Yeah. So just to kind of explain to you, because this might help you with who you're thinking of, it's going to be 50 points for a win, 30 a deduction of 30 points for a loss, for a draw which is time limit, double pin or double submission, 30 points. For a draw which is a double DQ or count out, 20 points. Then there's little things like if you win a title, 100 points. If you make a defense, you get points for that. There's points coming off the title losses. But like I said, there's percentage bonuses coming in. So if you're in the main event, you get 15 points, regardless of whether you win or lose. So that comes into play. There's percentage bonuses if you win more than 3 matches, more than 5 matches. But also, like you said there as well, the Revolution Rumble, that also gets a bonus as well. So you're bang on there with Luke Jacobs. And one of the things that's really key to note, before the person who's in second place, he had close to double the points they did.
Really, yeah. So my like second, third, and fourth, there's nothing kind of controversial in the names I'm going to pull out. because I'm thinking Oku and RKJ second and third, and maybe Mills fourth.
So there is actually someone in between. So you've said Oku and RKJ, who you've got in second and third. So Oku was around 400 points lower than Jacobs, which is, like you said, it just shows the momentum. I mean, we know the momentum that Jacobs did have, but even still, like seeing it as cold hard stats, it's like, wow, this is incredible. RKJ came in at third place. In between RKJ and Mills by around 100 points was Jordan Breaks.
Really?
Because Jordan Breaks won a cruiserweight title in there.
He did?
Yeah. Which is interesting considering that once he dropped that title, he was gone for a while. But that beginning of 2024, Jordan Breaks, he was a featured man, a very featured man.
Did he? I don't think he actually had a title defense. No, he did, didn't he? He defended in Spain.
Yep.
Against Robbie X.
Yep, exactly.
I was going to say, I don't think he successfully defended it because he won it. He drew with Kushida.
Yeah.
But that wasn't for the title, but it was a draw anyway.
Sheffield.
He beat Robbie X in Spain.
Yeah.
And then he lost at Fantastic Mania in what I think actually not many people talked about as one of the biggest shocks of the year. Yeah.
Yeah. It was, so I just found that really, really interesting. And then other things that I'll add on there as well, like the show in Spain, Fantastica Mania, there's things that I won't consider that as a official RevPro show, if you will, in the sense of how I'm dealing with for points. But I just found it really interesting. Then Mills was in 5th. And from there, just kind of rounding out the top 10 as singles wrestlers, I'll add, Anthony Ogogo, Leon Slater, Oscar Leuber, Charles Samuels, and the final one in the top 10 was Gabe Kidd.
JJ doesn't make the top 10.
JJ, number 11 by 5 points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So JJ's got that. He's got his win percentage is never fantastic, is it?
No.
He can get over in defeat, and he can bounce back from defeat. He's got a little bit of the Robbie X in him, where one of Robbie's kind of like biggest strengths is his aura isn't affected by his win-loss record.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think JJ's is either. And also JJ is on a long. You'd imagine he's on a long-term arc to level up to the top guys, because we know that nothing in RevPro happens quickly, because that's one of the reasons why so many of us love it, right? Because
absolutely,
it's long-term investment.
Yeah, and so that's just what I found really interesting about this. Like, and I think it's key what you've said there, because we can see like how a guy on paper on stats, like we can talk about these stats and go, hey, isn't it interesting, this guy here? And we can go, hey, this guy here, this is how he looks. But actually, when you see how that translates into real world, real fans and their reactions, I just think that's a really cool thing to look at and discuss. Like, our Women's Wrestler of the Year, Kanji, right?
Yeah.
So well voted that when you and I had to make the decision, because it was 50-50 between two, and we both picked that person.
Her and Danny, wasn't it?
Her and Danny Luna. Danny Luna herself commented on the post and said, correct decision. Like, this
Did
is
you
how
really? I love that.
This is how much Kanji is loved, right? Like, by people.
Yeah.
You look at her in that time period, 4 matches in RevPro, 1 win. But again, there was
Yes,
that
yeah.
level up effect,
Angie
isn't
was
there, with the people?
definitely a post Cutthroat Collective.
Mm,
Once the Cutthroat Collective came in, they needed like a couple of big baby faces
yeah,
to play off of, right? And Kanji
absolutely.
went
Yeah,
straight to the top of that. She had
yeah,
a tremendous. I think I wrote the phrase earlier today, the rise of Kanji, which I didn't mean for it to sound quite as cheesy as it did, but it kind of reflected the point I was making that was one of the big storylines in the women's division last year.
yeah, absolutely. So this is going to be something that I'm going to do on an event by event basis. As an event happens, I'm going to sit and I'm going to write it all down. I'm going to capture this. I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to talk about it on Twitter. I'm going to talk about it on Instagram, and I'm
Are
probably
you
going
going to
to talk
make
about it here.
Are you going to make a Twitter thread for it
I may well do,
so you
and
can track it over time?
I may well do, my friend, and I'm going to try and make some snazzy graphics that we can
Oh,
share on
I love
social
graphic.
media.
More graphic.
I'm thinking the AEW ranking style graphics that we saw. I'm thinking of doing something like that and trying and finding the right way to do something like that, and just really
Mate, we'll
again
get
get people
RevPro
out there
being talked
watching.
about on Sky Sports News before you know it.
Absolutely, mate. We'll have transfer deadline day. But anyway, that is
Oh,
coming
mate.
in. That is coming in just a few short weeks after the first show of the 229 on Sunday, the 2nd of February. Currently, Zoe Lucas making her return against Sapphire Reed. Go and get your tickets if you don't have them already. It is
Mate,
going to
I
be
can't wait to get back to the 229 and get back to wrestling. And my first ever Zoe Lucas match. I can't wait.
same, mate. Same. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to being at the 229. Anyway, Dave, you said we had some
Is it
questions.
Q&A
So
time?
it is Q&A time, my friend.
Oh, excited, mate. I'm excited because I messaged George earlier. I said, mate, can we flip the script tonight? Can I ask you the questions? Because I've collated them. I don't think George has seen many of the questions because most of them were sent to me privately. And one, I like the fact that I've chosen 10 questions for you, mate.
Mm-hmm.
5 of them are quite serious, meaty questions. And then 5 of them are your pudding. 5 of them are your you've got an ice cream sundae for pudding with all the glitz and the glamour, all the sprinkles, all the toppings. It's literally Pizza Hut ice cream factory gone crazy. Okay, mate?
Love that. Love that.
So I'll answer each one as well, but I'm going to let you go first for each one. So we'll start off, mate, with your meat and potatoes and your veg. Forbidden Door. Ben and Noah want to know, do you think RevPro has any involvement in Forbidden Door, which, if my dates are correct, will be on the Sunday of August bank holiday weekend, which is when All In last year and the year prior occurred. And Andy has confirmed that the RevPro 13th, what are we on now? 13th anniversary show will be that weekend also. But do you see Forbidden Door officially including RevPro?
So, I'm going to answer this twice. I'm going to answer with my selfish one and what I think will actually happen. Selfishly, I want to say no because I'm planning on not doing Forbidden Door, and this would get me there. I'm gonna give what might be a bit of a lame duck of an answer, but officially, no. I do not believe that RevPro will be like down as one of the partners, but I do think RevPro will be involved in a dark match or two. That's where I think happens. I think your 0 hour. That's where I'm thinking officially. I mean main card. I don't think there's going to be a main card there. I think you've got people are coming like they're going to the AW show. The casual punters, if you will, are going there for that, for the New Japan people, the people that they probably don't realize they could come and see with RevPro, right? A bit of stardom in there. I'd love to see it happening. I just don't think it will happen as an actual named partner. But could I see Young Guns versus Young Bucks on a pre-show.
Oh, mate, Young
Yes,
Guns versus Young Bucks.
yes, I could see that. Could I see um, Connor Mills versus everyone I'm thinking of is fucking RevPro, like, but like Connor Mills versus, I mean, Jay
Conor,
White again.
I'll tell you, Matt. International Dream match: Connor Mills versus Samoa Joe.
Yeah, like, could I
Yes,
see
please.
these? Could I see these matches as pre-show matches? Yes, I could. Like, I could see those as 0 hour. You could have Mariah May versus any one of, like, Mariah May versus Alex Windsor again, pre-show matches.
Yeah,
It's all there for the taking. Yeah,
fair play,
I
mate.
think, yeah, I think there'd be some involvement, but not the main. How about you?
So for me, I'm trying to phrase it right. Was I frustrated? Was I disappointed? No, I think I was just a little bit annoyed from personal. From I'm a very loyal person. I'm a die-hard West Ham fan, no matter how much it bloody kills me. And I'm now a die-hard RevPro fan, and it irked me that at Wrestle Dynasty you had the undisputed British Women's Championship being defended, but everything said New Japan, AEW,
Yeah,
CMLL. It's like, why isn't the RevPro logo just being added there?
yeah, I agree.
Why isn't Walker Stewart just mentioning RevPro there? And I know, you know, he's doing what he's told to do, isn't he? He's
Of
not.
course.
He's got somebody guiding him.
Mhm.
And he did. He puts over RevPro as often as possible, and I absolutely get that. Kevin Kelly did it before him, Chris Charlton as well. But an actual RevPro championship was being defended, and it wasn't officially they weren't an official member of the Wrestle Dynasty like
Mhm.
collaboration.
Yeah.
So it doesn't fill me with confidence that Forbidden Door would include RevPro. I can imagine that there will be RevPro involvement in the sense that people we think of as RevPro wrestlers will be there.
Mhm.
Alex Windsor could be involved in a match. Michael Oku could be involved in a match. Depending on the future of the Women's Championship, it's a long way away, but there is Mercedes Mone has the belt at the moment, so she might still have the belt then. So it would be involved there, whether
Yeah.
it's being defended exclusively or whether she's putting all her belts on the line, or who knows what the landscape will be by then.
Of course, yeah.
I do think there will be some representation. I'm just not sure if it will. I don't think personally that it will include RevPro in its official capacity. It won't be AEW versus New Japan versus CMLL versus RevPro.
Yeah.
I think it
I'm
will
with you.
be AEW, CMLL, New Japan, and then there might be some RevPro involvement.
Yeah, I get you. I agreed with you as well when I noticed very tellingly that it was just referred to as the British Women's Championship when it was being
Yes.
announced. And I was like, oh, okay. Not the Rev Pro Undisputed. Like,
Yeah.
it was just the British. And you know what, Dave? You've already flipped the script on me in this episode. I'm going to flip it very slightly here back onto you because I have a counter question for you. So,
Go on, mate.
I imagine from conversation we had that you probably weren't planning on going to Forbidden Door this year. But would that change if RevPro were officially announced as a partner?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
My plan this year is to go to every RevPro show I possibly can, to the point where my wife and I have an agreement that if RevPro, at the moment there's no showdown for Easter Sunday, and I learnt last year that going to RevPro on Easter Sunday against my wife's wishes was used to beat me with a stick for the entire year. Phoebe actually said at one point, she said, "I think you care more about wrestling than we do." Sorry,
Great
you
time to
care more
learn.
about wrestling than us. And I said, no, love, it's Easter. Easter's not Christmas. It's not your birthday. It's not a big deal. Apparently it is. But I still think there's going to be a RevPro show Easter Sunday because not every show's been announced yet. Like they've got to fit your call in at some point. They've said Doncaster Dome in the first half of the year. Well, when you actually look, if you go on Cage Match, you can see all the dates for the year, and you can start to see there's not that many gaps. So I've preempted it by saying to my wife, if they run Easter Sunday, I want to go. What is it going to take to get you off my back? And she turned around and said, we go on holiday during Easter. So right now she's flicking through an Isle of Wight brochure because I've got to take her and my mother-in-law and the kids for a 5-day trip to the Isle of Wight in return for me to get to a RevPro show that might not even be happening. Like these are the lengths I will go to get to a RevPro show.
My
But
my
in
heart
return,
bleeds,
I
Dave.
don't intend on going to any other company this year.
Yeah,
I don't intend on going to any AEW shows. I'll go. I kind of see Royal Quest as a bit different because it's got a big RevPro presence to it, and New Japan are my favourite international company.
Yeah.
And also, a ticket to Royal Quest is not bloody unreasonable.
Yeah.
The amount I paid to go and watch AEW last year for Collision and Dynamite, and I didn't enjoy it that much personally. Yeah. It's just I was at a stage where I was kind of falling out of love with the product anyway. And then I've paid all this money to go. I've driven all that way to go, and I'm just watching what I normally watch on TV, but kind of moan about in my head while I watch it on TV. But now I'm doing it live in the venue.
Yeah.
And I also have this moment of like, because everybody else is enjoying it so much, it makes me really realise that I'm not enjoying this like you're supposed to. And it's kind of, Gabe Kidd said his quote this week, didn't he? That AEW is a wrestling show and New Japan is professional wrestling.
Yeah.
And no one has ever been able to capture why I struggle with WWE and AEW and TNA and stuff like that on TV like he did.
Yeah.
And it's not that I think that any of these companies are bad. It's just I find a disconnect watching it on TV that I don't get being there live.
Yeah.
But I also have to be fully invested in it. I can't just turn up to a Sacrifice wrestling show or an Eve, and I need to be fully invested. I think it's just part of part of my neurodiversity, I think. But yeah, 100%, I'd be there for it, mate.
Nice.
It links in nicely with our next question, which comes from Billy, who asks, do you think that the Forbidden Door weekend, the anniversary show that runs, is headlined by the champion defending against the Rumble winner?
Yes. Unless they get something that absolutely transcends the like the match that we could have, because we've seen from the last 2 anniversary shows that there was one anniversary show which was done with the widest market in mind, like you got Shingo and Will headlining. The second year was done with, we're putting our guys at the top of the tree here, and I don't see Andy Quildan like sitting still on that. I don't see him going, because
his history of decision making, he doesn't tend to go backwards.
No, you can clearly see his vision of where he wanted to get to, right? So he did this entire show, which if you look at all the matches that year, with like Vegeta versus JJ, right? That was done to be like a rub to JJ almost in some ways, like to get people familiar who maybe weren't as familiar.
Like
this was a big match, whereas then this year he's then going up against Ishii, and he's like standing on his own 2 feet going up against him. You've got Luke, who was against Ishii last year, now winning the title at that event. So yeah, I think you're going to have a strong undercard. I think what they did this year with having like some bigger names, but utilizing them in a way where You didn't have to have that story going in. It was just dream match, Hechicera versus Zack Sabre Jr. Dream match. You know what you're getting with this. That's the beauty of being an independent show, that not everything can have stories going into it, right? We had, probably for an independent, the most amount of individual stories going into a show that I've ever seen. It was WrestleMania-esque in that way. But then you can just chuck in these matches and go, oh, by the way, this banger of a match is coming to you as well. You go, well, that's worth it. Even if I'm not sure of these guys at the top, perception is everything. If you've got that match and then you've got these guys after it, and it's so important that they can hang, and for Andy to even consider putting that on after that match, he has utmost faith in those guys to do that. So this year,
I'm not going to add anything to that,
yeah.
mate. I'm not going to add anything to it, other 100%. Than to say that I wholeheartedly agree with everything you just said.
Yeah.
British Tag League this year. Sharon asks, do you see us having a tag league when we didn't get one last year?
This is an interesting one, because I was sure the tag league was coming back, and with the schedule increasing in RevPro, you could argue there'll be more shows than ever to do it. But the timing never really fell for it, did it? And we kind of at the stage where expect it soon, expect it, and it just never materialized. But what we did get out of nowhere was a trios tournament.
Mm-hmm.
I foresee something where these things happen every now and again.
I agree.
We get it alternating years. 1 year we get a tag league, 1 year we get a trios. I don't know how it works out, or whether it is something as that, but I think between that and a Queen of the Ring style tournament, I think those are good things that you can just filter in every now and again and have, but you don't need to have every year. But for me, could they do a tag league weekender, like that sort of thing, where they do very similar to what they've done with the trios? Is that too similar to what they've been? I don't know. I would love to see it. Tag team wrestling has probably always been my favorite version of wrestling since I was a kid. That was my favorite. Also, I just want to shout out, I don't know if you've seen this. I saw this about 5 minutes before I came on. I believe it's True and Lacey in the Noah Junior Tag League. Amazing stuff. My introduction to them was RevPro Tag League, where I was like, I don't like these guys, and I just couldn't put my finger on why. And I then worked out it's because they were good at making me not like them. Right? They did that to me.
I don't like these guys. Can't work out why. Oh, it's because they don't want me to.
Yeah, exactly that.
And congratulations, Mark True, on becoming a dad.
Absolutely. I have it on very good authority that the baby was named after Luke Jacobs. Right, Dave. Hit me your thoughts.
The Trios Grand Prix, mate. Dave has asked, when do you see the first match, like the first trophy being cashed in, against who and where?
So I think, you know what, right? We've talked about RevPro going out into different markets. So I'm going to say something here which I think could be a stroke of genius and could get people going and traveling. One of the things that seemingly teased on social media, and I find that the guys in CPF are good at like teasing these little things. That when I say teasing, just putting out there enough to me.
Bloody red balloons everywhere.
That would be good, wouldn't it? And I think one of them tagged Amazing Red, right?
Yeah.
And Amazing Red, brother of the Spanish announce team, who the gear of CPF was 100% based on. I argue maybe it was based on 1999 Slipknot, but anyway. And then they put that, and I was like, Lucha Wrestling, right? A Lucha legend as well, like an Amazing Red, who, I mean, Lucha style. I mean, it feels reductive to just call him that, because if you were following the scene back in 2001, like I was at the time, you know just how important and influential he was. And his brothers at the time seemed like they were going to have a big career as tag team. But there's that renown there. Could this be a match that you put on a Barcelona show? Okay. And you've got that style of wrestling with the RevPro guys, but you've got the name value there in Amazing Red. So I'm going to say, I don't know when, But actually, no. You know what? I'm gonna say April or May, maybe May. RevPro
There's some
Spain.
free dates in May.
Yep. RevPro Barcelona, CPF versus Amazing Red and the Spanish announce team, or Joe Lando versus Amazing Red at that show. But that's where my dare to dream. That's my dare to dream pick, and I'm going with
Yeah,
it.
yeah, I like that, mate, because I think like the really obvious things are that they go after belts, right?
Mm-hmm.
You get the Money in the Bank contract and you go after the belt. You win the Royal Rumble and you go after the belt. But there are no trios belts, so you then get this murkiness of, well, what do we do for tag belts? What does the other person do? But I've found any conversation about this really difficult because to me it's completely, I've got no precedent to base it around.
Yeah.
Like, does one, and they can do anything because they could literally do a promo on a show, like, or a backstage bit and release it, or just a bit of Twitter back and forth that, you know, marks like us spot and start getting excited about, where someone says that it's always been their dream to be the cruiserweight champion. Do you know what I mean? Like, you pull out, if Danny Black or Joe Lando can pull out an old photo of them with somebody who had the cruiserweight belt, do you know what I mean? Like, that's all you need, isn't it? And suddenly you're like, oh, right, they're going to go after the cruiserweight belt. The other two are going to go after the tag belt. And there's stuff like that. I do think, though, that the first one, just to get one out the way and to show that this can be used, because that's quite obvious what I've just
Yeah.
said, to do a dream match of theirs would be really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And to be able to say, do you know what, for our first one, we're going to really think hard about what to do with the second and third ones. But for the first one, it's always been our dream to wrestle X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Can we have them?
Yeah.
And then Andy can turn around and say, I don't know where, I don't know when, but we'll make it happen. A few days later, match graphic.
I can hear Andy Quilden saying that right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I really like that. I like that a lot, mate.
Do you know what I think is really interesting as well on that? Just to cut you off there as well, is if you do go with a tag as well, you're automatically able to rehash a story, because Connor Mills, you could argue, was the genesis for Maverick Mayhew going on and winning this. So if they then decide to go after the tag team titles, and Joe Lando and Danny Black are the team that you normally see everywhere, does Mav then try and insert himself into that because he wants it? He wants to be the one that takes off Mills. Yeah, great potential all around here.
Yeah, I like that, mate. You've done really well, mate. You've eaten your meat, you've eaten your potatoes, you've got a few bits of veg left, mate, and then you're on that ice cream sundae. So
Excellent.
Your last question is two wrestlers. This one comes from Jamie. Two wrestlers, international men, because he said that we'd done our list on the international women. So two international men's wrestlers that you would love to see in RevPro in 2025. And he added a little bit at the end that said one kind of realistic but like dream wrestler to come in, and one person that maybe is a bit more of a surprise person that you're going to pick.
Okay. Right. So sorry, I was listening to all of that.
There's a lot to take in there, isn't it?
One that's never been in RevPro before. Did we say?
Yeah. So two wrestlers.
Yeah.
One kind of like a realistic dream opponent,
Right. Okay.
Like a dream of yours to see this person in RevPro, and the other to be maybe someone that isn't the most obvious answer. If it helps, mate, and I'll give you some thinking time. For this one, I'll go first.
Okay.
So
I'm hoping you don't say. Can you go with your dream one first? Because I wonder if we might have the same person for the realistic one.
So for me, for like a dream person, there's a few wrestlers that I would love to see in RevPro that it just doesn't feel like that's going to happen. Like that ship sailed, you know.
Yeah.
Like I would love to see Kenny Omega wrestle a singles match in RevPro, but I don't see with the career threatening illnesses that he's gone through, I don't see that man ever taking independent wrestling dates again.
No, same.
I'd love to see Bryan Danielson, and I don't see him ever doing it again. I'd love to see Eddie Kingston, and Eddie Kingston came out before he even got injured saying he won't be taking independent dates anymore.
Mhm.
I'm also so fucking glad we got to see Josh Alexander, because he's just announced that he's not taking any more independent dates, and we got in. I'm so thankful for that.
Yeah,
because he is like legitimately, I think he's in the top 10 best wrestlers in the world.
Yeah.
So the one that I'm going to go for is one that is like a genuine like possibility, in the sense that if you say we've seen MJF and we've seen Orange Cassidy, why couldn't we say Darby Allin?
Oh, nice.
I'd love to see a Darby Allin singles match. I've never seen one. And for me, there's a massive difference. Like, I saw Claudio wrestle Okada in Cardiff. That sounds so like meteoric. Yet also, I don't remember anything about it.
Yeah,
because I wasn't emotionally invested in it.
Yeah,
not like I would be at a RevPro show.
Yeah.
So I would love to see Claudio in a RevPro ring. But so for me, I would love anyone that I've seen live for any other company. I'd love to see in RevPro for it to be the true RevPro experience. Darby Allin is one of those wrestlers where he can lock me into what he's doing from the other side of the TV like very few can.
Yeah, I understand that.
I'd absolutely love to see him as like a kind of like a dream opponent. Him versus Luke Jacobs would be unreal.
Yeah, I love that. I was having a think because like I was thinking where does my like, and I was thinking of all these AEW people we could get right. Your Hangman Page is like, that's the one that's like, oh, that'd be really cool. Darby, like you said. And then I started thinking, to me, what is like, if we're gonna go down the road of true like you said, we're spoiled a bit now, where Derby could realistically happen. So am I saying Derby is one that could happen, or like is being pie in the sky? So my pie in the sky ones, I've got a couple like where my brain went now. I was convinced that we would get a Motor City Machine Guns in RevPro last year.
Yeah,
absolutely convinced. I said as much. I said Tag League, something like that. They are coming. I was putting money on it. Didn't quite happen. I mean, look, if I was going real pie in the sky, but it is never happening, for me, the one would be CM Punk. But then,
could you imagine?
Oh mate, I would love it. But you know what, right? What I'm trying to do when I think of this is think who has never appeared in RevPro, but would fit the ethos and could work in with the dynamics, right? Because yes, CM Punk would feel like MJF coming over, right? Like he could work with it, but work with us. Fuck, I'm not part of it. I'm turned into one of those people online that go us. Oh fuck, I can't ever.
Mate, it's like, you know, it's the way you talk about your football club, right?
Yeah. The one for me that jumps out that I think would be really a really great addition for one match would be Sheamus.
Oh, mate, yes.
Sheamus
I was
versus
just
Luke
watching his Chris Van
Jacobs.
Vliet some bits from it the other day where he was talking about his match with Gunther.
Yeah.
Oh my god, Gunther.
Yeah. Well,
Like,
yeah.
Like, I want to see Walter.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I'm just getting used to not calling him that, but
mate, you know what? One of my biggest regrets in hindsight was the fact that I didn't go to the 1865 where he, as Walter, was there. And I think I'm just going to bring that show up now because I don't, again, this was a time period, but I don't know why I wasn't going to these shows. But I just wasn't. And that should have been enough to
what
go
year
there.
was this? If it was 1865 before he'd gone to WWE?
Yeah, I'm just checking it now.
We're like 2017, maybe?
This was 2018. Live in, to be fair, I think the reason I didn't go to this was because I hadn't heard of these shows by that point. But this was live in Southampton 3, 3rd of June 2018. Gideon Gray was in an 8-man tag to start with. TK Cooper. Josh Bodum defeats Kip Sabian.
Yeah.
Aussie Open defeats the Arrows of Hungary. A lady called
I've seen
Ginny.
this show.
Yeah, Ginny was
I remember that match.
losing the women's title to someone called Jamie Hayter.
Yeah.
And then ELP was also on the show as well, and Walter defeats Chris Brooks. So what a stacked show that is! Like,
Yes.
yeah. So yeah, like, but again, I would absolutely take it. That would be a great one. Now, if you don't mind, before you chuck your name of like realistic ones that you think,
So for this one, it's more someone that people might be surprised to hear you putting over, I suppose. Is the way I'm taking it.
sorry. Oh, okay.
So mine, to give you context,
Yeah,
mine was
please.
someone who I absolutely fell in love with, having no knowledge of their WWE existence whatsoever. I fell in love with through New Japan Strong, and still to this day enjoy so much on the New Japan of America, like shows like Battle in the Valley that we just had, and that's Fred Rosser.
I thought that's who you were going to say.
I'd love to see Fred Rosser in a RevPro ring. Like, he is the embodiment of professional wrestling. Like, I love everything about him. I love the way that he works. I love the way that he presents himself. I love the way he talks. I love the way that he lives and breathes. He's kind of, it's not a character, it's just him. He is, a trainer for New Japan. He's part of the LA dojo. He is like a gatekeeper in the positive sense. He's a boss that every wrestler has to go through to be able to get further in New Japan. I'd love to see him come over and work some British lads. I don't think it's realistic in the sense that I've got no idea if at this stage of his career he would want to. I've not seen him be advertised for any European wrestling company at any stage. So he seems very much at home and happy doing all his with his life and with his like schedule. But if it's something that there was a possibility, I would absolutely love to see it, because he's just one of those guys where I've enjoyed him from afar for so long, like a good sort of like 5 years now of watching him regularly in America. And you think, it's crazy to say, but most of the wrestlers I've been watching for 5 years, I've been lucky enough to see live. Whether it's through shows like All In or Royal Quest or through RevPro booking them and Fantastica Mania and all these things. But like Fred Ross is just one of those people where it's like it's never happened and it doesn't feel likely to happen, which makes me want it even more.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, I like that. When you said not known from his time in WWE, I was like, I know who we're going down here. So, I don't know if I have a name that feels like that kind of like, oh my God, like I would not have expected you to say, but I've got a couple where I think I've got two. I've got a tag team. I've got a singles guy. A singles guy from
Give us a vote.
if you gave me like the option of getting anyone in, people might go, you've chose him out of everyone, not because of how like about anything about him, but just because there's so much scope out there. For me, one of the top ones I'd love to see again from WWE would be Andrade. I think the guy is so wonderful at what he does. And I think that would be a cool one. But the one that people might be the most shocked about, actually, tag team, is the Viking Raiders. War Machine.
Yeah.
They are another big set of lads who they've had great tag team matches in multiple different companies around the world. And it feels like for a one night kind of special sort of thing. Again, I keep going against Young Guns, right? Because these are where these matches feel for me. But imagine them against Oku and Zazaya, right?
Yeah.
That's another team there. You could imagine them against someone like Subculture. I think they could, again, 1 or 2 dates, like special against guys, especially who can bump for them, right? Not saying they're not capable of doing that because they're big guys, but they are agile as well.
I mean, they are like they were the indie darlings, weren't they?
Yeah,
but
yeah,
in
they
such
were
like to call them darlings immediately sounds quite jarring, doesn't it? Because
Yeah.
but they were just that hot indie act. I remember when
Yeah.
they signed for NXT, and it was just like, oh, I've heard of these guys. And at that point, like, I didn't know anybody. I just knew what WWE was, and I was just starting to learn that a world existed outside of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that, mate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, time for my ice cream, Dave.
Time for your ice cream, mate. And the rule for these questions is they're going to be relatively quick fire, okay? Because they're daft as all buggery, mate. Okay.
Yeah.
So your first one comes from Regan, who asks, if you were asked by Andy Quilden to be the manager of a RevPro wrestler, who would you manage and why?
Michael Oku, because I have more flair than the mirror, and don't anyone clip that up and send it to her. And also because he's the champion, so he would earn the most money. Therefore, I could get the biggest cut from Michael Oku.
Oh, mate, that is literally David Francisco saying, well, of course, if I can pick anyone to wrestle, I'm going to pick the champion.
Exactly.
Love that. I would manage Shah Samuels because Shah Samuels turns everything he is given into gold, and therefore he could get me over.
I love that, Dave.
It gets sillier, mate, because Faith has asked if you could get in the ring and have one RevPro match, who would you wrestle?
Andy Quilden, because that's the only person I think I could realistically beat.
I love that because my answer is so different. If I'm going to get in the ring, it's got to be special. So I've got to wrestle a legend. I'm not going to be able to run around. I'm not going to be able to bounce off the ropes. But I reckon I could stand there and just take a bit of a beating. I'd probably stay in bed for a month afterwards. So Minoru Suzuki.
You know what? As you said, I was like, he's not actually going to say it. But as you said about everything before you even said about taking a beating, I was like, I really want to see Dave against Minoru Suzuki. That maybe tells you everything about our friendship here.
Chris has asked if there is one current Manchester United player for you, West Ham player for me, who we think has the potential to become a wrestler, who would you pick and why?
Right, I'm sorry, Chris. I'm picking a current and I'm picking a legend. The legend.
Yeah, I'm doing a legend.
I'm doing two legends for different reasons. Eric Cantona, because we've seen how he is with the kung fu kicks. Cristiano Ronaldo, because the guy is good at bumping. And current, I would say for me, it's got to be Lisandro Martinez. The guy is an absolute shithouse. He would work as part of Northwest Strong. He could just be the Argentinian import for them.
I love that. So for current, I'm going to go Jared Bowen because he's a proper geezer. He'd get over with fans. He's got good feet work, so he'd be able to learn the actual art and craft of pro wrestling. And he is like as close to what we have as a Mr. West Ham at the moment. My legend, because the man could do everything, so why wouldn't he be able to wrestle as well? And he would be the Italian Minoru Suzuki. It's got to be Paolo Di Canio.
Yeah, he absolutely would be. Yeah, I love that.
Emma has asked, it is fantasy dinner party time. You get to invite 3 RevPro wrestlers round for a dinner party. Who do you invite round for the best night possible?
Okay, Amira, because I think she would I think she'd absolutely be the life and soul of the party. Or even if she's not as hyper as people like to think she is, I think she could come up with some really insightful conversation. David Francisco, because I think he'd be good for a yarn of some sort. Like he could spin one, couldn't he? Who would my third one be? That's quite an interesting one. Do you know what? I'm gonna pick Danny Luna because I think I think she'd be quite cool to hang out with, but I also think she'd be good at giving a bit of a wind up, and I could see Dave with Danny Luna and Amira getting a bit wound up by that. So yeah. Oh, sorry, David. He's not a Dave. David.
I quite like that. So I'm gonna go for like a proper boys' night in, people of a similar age, although I recognise that I'm aging a couple of them by saying that, of the similar ilk, of a similar background to me, and we're going to have a proper lads' night in. It's going to be me, Michael Oku, Jordan Saeed, and Shah Samuels. And that's going to be the East London represented well. Hackney's kind of, it's a bit northeast, but I'll accept Oku. We'll bring him in. We'll welcome him to the fully East London side of it. We'll have a proper like curry night and a few non-alcoholic Guinness, and it will be a thoroughly good night.
I like that, and I've already got the group chat name for you all: 3 lads, 1 cuck.
Love that, mate. The last question comes from Emily, my wife. When are we bringing out a topless calendar?
Emily, DM me for the link.
Mate, she said to me yesterday, you've been on Instagram recently? I was like, no, why? She said, I think somebody replied to your Q&A. I was like, how would you know? But just look. So yeah, what I would say is not even she wants to see that. No one else wants to see it, but not even my wife of almost however many years it will be. 13 years? 13 years in a couple of weeks it'll be.
We're getting
but yes, mate, that was our 2025 version of the mailbag. That was our Q&A session, and it was wild.
Thank you all. Really appreciate your time. We'll catch you on the next one. Take care then.